Welcome to the Highest Resolution, everyone. Today, I actually have a guest that I already know, Mr. Josh Lee. Appreciate you for being here. And yeah, this is just gonna be really relaxed. We're just gonna get into how he got into photography and videography and what he's doing currently and what he's hoping to do in the future. So let's get into it. What's up, bro?
What's going on?
Not much, man. I appreciate you coming by.
Bro, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Seriously,
yeah, man.
As often as I have shoots and opportunities to work with other people, there are rare opportunities where I'm in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And let alone have opportunities to speak and talk about the experience. So
Yeah.
this is unique for me too, bro.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I didn't think about that until you just said it. That we're often the people behind the camera and not really saying much. We're always trying to tell somebody else's story, and we don't always get the chance to tell our own. So that's interesting. I'm having deep thoughts now.
Same.
But yeah, man, how did you get into like photography, videography? How did you start into that?
So my journey started back in middle school. For those that don't know, my name is Joshua Lee. I was born in Washington, D.C., but I was raised in Prince George's County, Maryland. What's unique about my upbringing is in that particular county, Upper Marlboro, Silver Spring, Forestville, Sea Pleasant, for those that are local to the area. That particular county is recognized as the most affluent county in America, Black affluent county in America.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of pretty cool opportunities as a kid growing up in the area. So in middle school, I went to Ernest Everett Just Middle School, and they had a TAG program.
Yeah.
TAG for Talented and Gifted. And around that time, I was exposed to like the basics of production.
Yeah.
There wasn't necessarily like a studio at the time in the middle school that I went to, but God, I wish I could remember her name. But one of my former teachers, she showed me how to write a script.
Yeah.
She told me how to do like work on storyboards.
Yeah.
She was the first one that actually got me a headset.
Yeah.
Like an intercom system. And so at a young age, that interest was there.
Yeah.
In high school, I went to a science and tech program.
Yeah.
Charles Herbert Flowers High School, Flowers for short. And there, I was in science and tech, and for my electives, I decided to pursue production. Television production was the name of the class at the time. Those series of classes, it was essentially a 3-year elective if I decided to pursue it to the end. Year one was the basics of television production, so learning about pre-production, production, and post-production, which consist of writing a script, working on storyboards, looking at like shot composition, all in high school.
Yeah.
And then, learning production, like how lighting in the studio works, what cameras and lenses work best for the shots that you're trying to get. And then post-production is when we do the editing and we kind of learn the ins and outs of transitions and putting the story together in its totality. So I did that my first year. My second year, I pursued it through the end.
All right.
The second year was putting together a television production show every morning and a bi-weekly like special every other week.
Yeah.
So I was invested in the field at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
And I would probably say the culmination of it all, my third year, is that I had an internship at a local news station called Prince George's County Community Television, PGCTV for short.
Yeah.
And that's where I started to see what that space looked like in corporate America, in industry. So that's where I started.
Yeah.
I'm kind of moving forward through the progression of it all. In college, shout out to A&T.
Yeah.
It's my alma mater.
Aggie Pride, right?
Aggie Pride. My alma mater, I ended up pursuing a minor degree in journalism since I had a little extra time with the 5-year program, getting my engineering degree. So because I had the time, I pursued my minor, and I got that in mass media production.
Yeah.
So it's again like the progression of it all.
It's growth.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Fast forward into my adult life, which or adult life, however way you want to term it.
Mm-hmm.
That I had no interest in starting a business when I graduated from college.
Yeah.
The work that I was doing in production at the time was at my church back in Greensboro.
Yeah.
And so starting the production ministry at the church is how I kind of kept that interest going.
Yeah.
And when I left that church and moved a little closer to Durham, those interests, they just fell off.
Yeah.
It wasn't until 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like the year 2021, like
Mm-hmm.
a little closer towards the end of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
where churches were opening back up.
Yeah.
And, I heard a sermon that talked about your gifts will make room for you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that journalism and production and the gift of the eye, is what a lot of people call it. The eye was a gift that I had.
Yeah.
And so I just remember being in church. Okay, this is a good sermon about gifts and your gifts making room and how the
Yeah.
Lord blesses you and how some stuff is generational
Yeah.
and some stuff is natural. And so long story short, I left church that day. A couple of days later, I'm still thinking about the sermon.
Yeah.
A couple of days later, I'm still thinking about the sermon. So I said, okay, Lord, like what's this about?
Right.
So I decided praying about it. And through my prayer, the Lord spoke to me. And it wasn't like a sentence or a statement.
Mm-hmm.
I was taken on a journey at that point. And everything that I had mentioned, the work that I did in middle school,
Yeah.
high school, college, the media ministry that was started at my previous church,
Yeah.
like the Lord reminded me of all of that.
Yeah.
And he said, these are gifts that I've given you.
Right.
And then he ended the journey with the question.
Yeah.
And the question was, are you going to do anything with the gifts that I've given you?
Yeah.
I said, and my response to that was, okay, Lord, if I'm going to do something with these gifts, I just want to be legitimate.
Right.
That was my response.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I said, if I'm going to do it, I need to file an LLC because I just don't want to have a business
Yeah.
and not have a base to fall on.
Right.
I wanted to get a website,
Mm-hmm.
get a domain, a logo,
Yeah.
get some T-shirts made.
Yeah.
Again, because I just wanted to be legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never got into the field because I was interested in making a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
or I wanted to do a lot more networking like that. That was never the MO or the intent
Right.
of starting J.E. Lee Productions.
Mm-hmm.
It started with, what you gonna do with these gifts?
Yeah.
And if I do anything with it, I just want to be legit.
Right.
And it'll be 2 years in March
Yeah.
since I've started my company.
Well, first, congrats, man, on the upcoming anniversary.
Thank
You have such a unique story at the fact that it was like bred in you from like an early age. And I love what you said about how like the Lord reminded you because it's like he had been sowing seeds all along and like this is like the harvest of it. Like this is like it coming to like fruition. It's like these were little things that he deposited in you all along the way. And so that's incredible that you had like I didn't even know schools had on TV I hear about like the AV club or whatever like that.
Yep.
But I didn't, I'm from like a very small like country town, so I didn't think that was like a real thing that was like, active. And so to give students that type of accessibility to, use that equipment and understand that knowledge and learn stuff that some people aren't even learning until they're like later on in college or even in the film industry, that's a unique blessing to like be able to have that. So that's awesome, man.
No, it is. I would say that a lot of times I don't even have. I'm normally not in spaces where I can tell my story
Right.
because I would say it's rich.
Right.
When you look at the dynamics of where I grew up, the opportunities that were available to me as a student, and how that was molded and kind of shaped with time.
Yeah.
It's difficult to navigate and to tell that story without telling people where I'm from,
Yeah.
about the culture and a little bit of history,
Right.
and how the county kind of came about,
Yeah.
and what makes that area and space so different and unique from so many other like counties and states and cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's dope. Do do you see yourself like returning back to there or living there, or because it
Yeah.
was a place that like formed you and like what you've been like called to do?
Um, I would say yes,
Hmm.
not necessarily for business,
Yeah.
but because that's what my family is.
Right.
So between growing up there, being raised there, my mom, dad, my granddad, God rest his soul, like my family, they're all there. My brother, sister-in-law.
Hmm.
So amongst the people that I'm most familiar with and those that I kind of grew up with, they all live in Maryland,
Yeah.
D.C., Virginia,
All right.
and I'm the only one in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So when I kind of look at having a family
Hmm.
and getting engaged and getting married, having kids,
Yeah.
I would prefer to go home where the support is,
Yeah.
where most of the support is,
Right.
because I have been able to grow some pretty pivotal relationships here and even in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, it makes it difficult
Yeah.
to go back. But for the same reasons, it's kind of like
Yeah.
family, kids, like let's kind of go home for something like that,
I get that. So, for you, what does your business currently look like? Like, I know a lot of the services you provide are photography and videography.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any like particular services that you do a lot more of, like event highlights, maternity shoots, birthday parties?
Yeah,
What's like, your main thing that you shoot?
it's a good question. I've thought a lot about this answer,
Yeah.
and it's very unconventional. My response is very unconventional.
All right.
The shoots that I prefer revolve around community,
Mm. Yeah.
and community isn't always one thing or the other.
Right.
It's anything that involves people.
Right.
So when I look at maternity shoots,
Mhm.
when I look at studio shoots, weddings, corporate events,
Yeah.
nonprofit commercials,
Hmm.
like a lot of the productions and the opportunities a lot of the opportunities that I've had
Yeah.
naturally revolve around people.
I see. Yeah.
And that to me is a natural gift.
Right.
A lot of others will say, I like, nature and I
Mhm.
like still shots, not necessarily groups of people or concerts or
Yeah.
crowds. But I would say that's my niche, my thing.
Yeah. So it's something
Um,
about the community that like really like feeds you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's not cliche because community looks different for everybody.
Right. Absolutely.
So if it's in our church setting
Yeah.
where we come together and we rally behind everybody's gifts and
Mhm.
everybody having a dynamic component around how they serve, that's one community.
Yeah.
When you look at what's a good example? When you look at I did a commercial for my mom who's the PTA president.
Yeah.
I did a shoot with her and her students in her classroom,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother community. The exposure that they got from that event I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But that's a whole another community that people don't even think about.
Yeah.
And my most recent shoot was, I've had so many shoots, bro.
Mhm.
I did a 60th birthday party in
Mhm.
December. I did a commercial recently for my brother who's a patent owner.
Okay.
I did another shoot recently, like behind the scenes shoot for a published model.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, man, because
Yeah.
like in every pocket and every project that I have, I see so many different types of communities.
Right.
And for me to be a part of it, whether it's just for that time frame
Yeah.
or relationships, grow and spawn from that opportunity,
Yeah.
I find my networks and my environments constantly changing too.
Yeah. I can definitely see that like community looks different in every space. Like I know me growing up, my community kind of just felt like my household family. But I also knew other people who their community was everybody in the neighborhood. Like, someone down the street could pick them up from school or something like that. And, if they needed food, they could go to their house and it would be perfectly fine. And so, yeah, I think that's incredible that like, and do you find that that's like your inspiration too? Like when you get creative ideas, is that where that comes from? Or does your inspiration come from a different place?
That's another good question. I I would say my inspiration comes from two different places. One, based on the vision that the client has, and or the vision that I have, that I'm conceiving.
Yeah.
Sometimes they work in tandem, but believe it or not, a lot of people don't know what they want a lot of times.
Yeah.
So it's solely on me to take the conversations and take their ideas, envision it, see how I can create it,
Yeah.
and actually produce.
Yeah.
That creative process to me is insane.
Yeah.
It's out of this world. And it's like, I don't know, man. I think that's the beauty in what we do.
Yeah.
It's being able to see words and see ideas from other people, conceptualize it,
Right.
and then create it.
Yeah.
So that creative flow and that creative nature, sometimes it comes from what I see. Sometimes it comes from something that I've never done and I want to try. And other times it's challenge.
Right.
And say my client wants something that I've never done.
Yeah.
So it's, do I step up to the challenge and see if I can produce, or do
Yeah.
I just shy away from it altogether?
Yeah.
And in most cases, I try my best to
Step up to it.
step up to the plate. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point you mentioned, that like sometimes they don't fully know what they're looking for, and you have to collaborate with them. It's a collaborative process, and you're trying your best to help them get to a solution. Like, we have to have an actual plan without diverting from the heart of like what they actually want. So that's like it's a balance that you play, but it's a fun thing to do, because like you can come up with creativity that you hadn't thought of before, because you get to bounce ideas off of them. So I think, yeah, man, I think that's incredible.
But that's also the nature of the field that we're in too,
Right.
because it's art.
Yeah.
It's art, and there's no right or wrong way to create.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on how much time you divulge. That makes the craft more intricate and more detailed oriented,
Yeah.
or as simple as a project can or should be.
Yeah.
In news, it's cut,
Right.
fade in video, fade out video.
Right.
In corporate America, a lot of commercials you see, it's fast paced, a lot of cuts.
Yep.
The creativity is in the storyboard and the ability to put so much information in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Versus a birthday recap or an event recap, you can put effects, or music video.
Yeah.
Effects, things are popping, you got lights here, you got people moving here, you got creativity with camera movements and effects.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's no right or wrong way in the world of art,
Yeah.
especially for us media creatives.
Yeah. I would agree, man. Yeah. I think we have a lot of like range when it comes to like what we are like allowed to do. And that's exciting and it's fun. I think there are times where it can feel overwhelming, especially when you're starting out, because you like, there's so many different avenues I can take, which one to take. And for me, I've kind of just been in the practice of like, just try them all. We're going to see what we like, see what we don't like.
That's true.
And
That's
at least
true.
once we try it, we'll find out, like, never again. But you like, we have time to figure everything out. So I think that's really dope. Where do you see your business going, 5-10 years in the future? What's the goal of it?
Yeah, I would say, bro, you have a lot of great questions.
I appreciate you, man.
Okay.
No, we're good.
In 5 to 10 years, I see my business being a media giant.
Right.
I see my business funding the lives of multiple families. I see my business having multi-million-dollar contracts.
Right.
And I see the reach and the span of my business in churches and institutions and nonprofits, in ESPN, in major companies.
Right.
How I'm going to get there, that vision is slowly evolving and unfolding. But that's the end goal.
Yeah.
One of my goals, to kind of bring it down to where I'm at currently, one of my goals that I have for this year is to create opportunities for other people. And I know for that to happen, I have to be me, and then the business has to be in a position where we have the infrastructure to handle larger contracts.
Yeah.
I know for most larger companies, your $1 million, multi-million-dollar companies, for those institutions to work with external groups, the external groups need company insurance, which isn't a big deal for medium-sized companies.
Right.
But for us smaller folks,
Yeah.
getting to a place of stability where we can pay all of our bills without reoccurring expenses that we can't handle
Right.
is something that I'm wrapping my mind around and growing into.
Yeah.
But knowing that I'm still creating the infrastructure is something that I'm doubling down on this year to be able to handle the opportunities that I can foresee.
Yeah. I think that's awesome, man. It's what like what you love this community and working within them, and then being able to grow your business to a level where I'm not only working with you and collaborating with you, but I'm investing in you.
Yeah.
I think that's huge, especially the infrastructure thing, because one thing I've wanted to do is I was like, dang, I think of the people that mentored me and helped me along the way. I would love to take on a mentor and a mentee, and be able to even now starting out, I can just give you knowledge, but hopefully down the future, I can give you a check every
Give you
now and
some
then.
money.
Yeah, man, to
No,
help you
seriously.
out. So
Seriously.
yeah, for you to know that what I need is infrastructure. If I focus on building the infrastructure in these larger contracts, that's going to be able to sustain me and the community that I'm trying to invest in.
Exactly. I have you speak about mentorship. I have to give my mentor a shameless plug. His name is Rick. He is he's a big time DJ, but then he's also a big time photographer in the area, videographer. He's been an entrepreneur for 10 years. He left corporate America as a news producer and a news anchor, and he never looked back. And one of the things that he constantly tells me is, so you have the goods, you got the juice, but it's up to you how fast or how slow you want to grow your business.
Right.
So a lot of times when he has opportunities and shoots available, he'll call me or he'll invite me out, and he won't just show me different types of equipment or different pieces of of equipment. He'll walk me through business and good business practices and the importance of relationships and not just a dollar.
Yeah.
And the sowing seeds with communications, and just because you don't get the opportunity that you want doesn't mean that it can't happen. It's just timing.
Yeah.
And then it's the follow up, and then the emails, and then the making those adjustments to invoices and the contracts.
Yeah.
That to me is behind the actual work.
Right.
Is the business of people.
Yeah.
And networking and being able to connect and still be genuine in your approach and not just capitalistic. It's all about the money. To me, you can't sustain anything. You can't sustain anything like that.
Yeah.
But it just depends on what your MO is.
Right.
But for my mentor, he's continuing to give me gems and keys to be successful. Yeah. Even as a young entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. I think it's needed that everyone everyone should try to do it, but especially in this industry where we don't have access to the traditional methods usually. A lot of people can't go to film school, people may not be able to major in communications or media or something like that, and there may be obstacles geographically or financially, and so to be able to get the same information from someone that's just kind enough to be let me put you on game, let me show you, let me tell you this or that, and that can save you all the time of not making the mistakes that they had to, is huge, because I'm sure he probably he could probably think of a dozen things that he did wrong that you didn't have to go through, and so you get to avoid certain pitfalls. So that's dope.
Yeah, I think it's also twofold,
right?
Because they say the greatest lesson is experience.
Yeah. Facts.
Versus the greatest lesson is listening to others, being an active listener. And so it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So as a mentor, you've had the lived experience that you share. And as a mentee, you either take that information in and then carve out your own journey, or you don't take it in at all and you just figure it out.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, as entrepreneurs, a lot of the learning is in the doing.
Yeah.
And in the trial and error is, this worked, this didn't work. Like, this lighting looked good,
Yeah.
this didn't. Bro, when I look back like 2 years ago
Yeah.
at photos that I took when I first got my camera and photos that I take now, I almost cringe.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
what was I doing?
I feel that.
But that's a part of the learning.
Exactly.
You know, it's you're in different environments where you meet different people, and the uncomfort of not knowing who's who and how to navigate those spaces, I think it challenges, at least in my case, it challenges me to think a little differently,
Yeah.
to approach environments and projects differently. Because I want to continue to bolster up my portfolio and provide services to just about anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's dope, man. Yeah. You give me a lot to think about if I'm taking pauses, but yeah, man, I think that's phenomenal, man. Well, I know you got something to go to. Let me let you head out, but where can people reach you? Are you taking bookings right now?
Yes. You can reach me on Instagram at my personal is mob_takeover. My business page is J.E. Lee Productions. Some people call it Jelly. It's my initials, J.E. last name Lee.
Yeah.
Productions. Otherwise, you can visit my website at jeleeproductions.com. Yeah, and from there, anything you need as far as like contact information, types of services we provide, feel free to reach out via text, email. I'm doing some headshots for one of my coworkers on Saturday for their daughter.
Okay.
So it just depends on what people need. And if I can't do it, I can recommend somebody that can.
Bet. Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you again. This is The Highest Resolution. Thank you again, Josh. I appreciate you stopping by, bro.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate you, bro.
Cool, boy. 27. All right, we good.
Gang.
Let's say it at the same time.